G'day champions, it's Ash here bringing you the first proper look at this. It's Hyundai's IONIQ 5. Now it's the company's mid-size electric SUV, set to go on sale later in the year. Now pricing and spec is still to be determined, but I've got all the info on battery capacities, motors, outputs, range, all that good stuff. Hopefully enough to turn you into an IONIQ 5 instant expert. So let's get into it. If you're wondering where the inspiration for the exterior design came from, well, the pony from 1970. Have a look at the similarities with the C-pillar, with the tight overhangs that we mentioned before. But this is a thoroughly modern interpretation. Have a look, for example, at the wheel arches. They've been influenced by a camera aperture. Likewise, this really distinctive diagonal crease running across the front doors. Door handles, a flush mount, pop out on approach with the key fob. Wheels on this one, 20s, but 19s will be standard on the lower grades. If we come around, check out the headlights. There's this really interesting pixel theme going on and illumination across this front sill section below the clamshell bonnet. In terms of powertrains, there's likely to be at least 3 variations, starting with a 58 kilowatt hour battery pack, a rear-mounted electric motor making 125 kilowatts and 350 newton meters, giving a claimed 0 to 100 in 8.5 seconds. Stepping up from that will be an all-wheel drive variant, still utilising that 58 kilowatt hour battery pack, but making 173 kilowatts and 605 newton meters. It slashes the 0 to 100 time down to 6.1 seconds. At the top end of the range, we're expecting a larger battery pack, 72.6 kilowatt hours, and motors front and rear, making a combined 225 kilowatts and 605 newton meters. The top end of the range will have a 72.6 kilowatt hour battery powering 2 electric motors, front and rear, for a combined 225 kilowatts, 605 newton meters. That model will give 0 to 100 in a claimed 5.2 seconds. Interestingly, making it the fastest model in the Hyundai lineup, because the i30N only manages it in 5.9. In terms of the all-important range, at this stage Hyundai is only quoting for the larger battery pack car, 480 kilometres is what's claimed on the WLTP cycle. Probably realistic to expect low 300s from the smaller battery pack. Now in terms of screens and multimedia, we've got twin displays, 12.2 inches each of them. Obviously all your speed and immediate driving control stuff here, HVAC and multimedia over here, but handily HVAC all still have hard buttons to control. This is kind of a novel idea. The center console can actually be slid by 140 mils forward and back, giving you a little bit more flexibility in terms of armrest and positioning. Kind of cool. Inside, well, there's lots of quite clever and fresh thinking going on in here. First thing you'll notice is the lack of any center console, creating this very flat floor type arrangement and what Hyundai are describing as a lounge concept. The seats are incredibly thin in terms of the bulk of the backrest, allowing more legroom for those riding behind. And the seats also go to a full 30-degree recline. Opportunity to have a little nap. So if you roll up to the charging point and you find there's a couple of cars already ahead of you, you could be in for a bit of wait. And this is probably the least painful way to get through that. In terms of rear seat accom, it's actually really nice. As I mentioned, the seat backs are nicely scalloped to allow for a bit more legroom, plenty of headroom, and yeah, really nice choice of materials too. All that recycled bio kind of vibe going on in here, but it feels really fresh and really innovative. In terms of boot space, we've got 530 litres with seats up. That expands to nearly 1600 with seats folded. There's a 2-tier compartment arrangement going on here. No spare, however, which will upset a few people, but fortunately, the charging cable lives in the front compartment, so always leaves the boot space nice and clean and free for your stuff. Now, in terms of recharging, IONIQ 5 is compatible with the 350 kilowatt chargers, which are the fastest available. Plugged into one of those, the battery, the standard battery, can be taken from 10% to 80% in about 18 minutes. Or the flip side is that you can add about 100 kilometres of range for every 5 minutes of charge time. I've got to say, I'm really excited to drive IONIQ 5. We know how well EV powertrains work in family-size SUVs. We've seen it with the Wheels 2020 Car of the Year, the EQC. But the fact is, that car starts at around 140,000. Hyundai are talking about high 60s for the entry-level IONIQ 5, maybe stretching to high 70s for the top spec model. I think if they can bring it in at around those numbers, they're onto a winner.